Now we're going to talk a little bit about storytelling. A few years ago, I received an invitation to present to a local Rotary Club, and I thought it sounded very familiar. And sure enough, when I arrived, I realized I had made a presentation to that very same club just a year before. They were the same people asking the same questions, and I felt like I was having a deja vu moment. But I thought about it later, and it was because I, who did not have that personal connection to MS, had not made an impact on that audience. But this time I brought with me one of my wonderful volunteer speakers, Trish, and the audience was immediately connected with her as she shared her story. And I'm sure that after making that connection with Trish, they will never forget the MS Society again. So you are the face of MS. And as this slide indicates, Andy Goodman has shared, numbers numb, jargon jars, and nobody ever marched on Washington because of a pie chart. If you want to connect to your audience, tell them a story. Stories will influence giving and bring the invisible and abstract to life, because people are hardwired to respond to those stories. So sharing your story can be a very effective tool. We want you to use your story and balance it with the facts and the information about the MS Society so that we can lead people to a greater understanding of MS. So how do we do that? As this slide indicates, there's a real knack and a process for telling your story. We start with a few facts. Then we develop and deepen the story with more information. And then we give that payoff or that emotional conclusion to the story. I want to give you a brief story that my friend Trish, one of our experienced speakers, has made a big impression with audiences by sharing this. So Trish's story, starting with these few facts. When she was diagnosed with MS, Trish was a business owner. She was very proud of her accounting firm. She employed 6 or 7 people, and the business was flourishing. But after her diagnosis, she began to experience symptoms which made it difficult for her to work. In fact, within a year after her diagnosis, she could no longer balance her own checkbook. As a result, she had to close her business, affecting not only herself and her own self-image, but also the employees who ended up losing their jobs, and her long-term clients that she'd worked with for years lost their accountant. And so it's really important that particular story indicates what those invisible symptoms that Trish, who has that epitome of someone who does not look like she has a chronic illness, those invisible symptoms had a major impact on her life. So it's an excellent way to share that story to show the effects of MS. So Trish's story she was the protagonist. She was the person we were following. We gave a little bit of context to her background. Trish could have given a little bit more. And then she shared that inciting incident, which was when she was diagnosed with MS, and then the symptoms of MS caused her to no longer be able to work. She could expand on that story and even share the actual experience of when she realized that she couldn't balance her checkbook anymore, and describe that specific event. And the result, what was happening, she had to close her business. It's really important to note that that particular story only took a couple of minutes to share, but it's a very important indication, an example of the effect of MS in someone's life. And that's what I urge you to think about as you are preparing your presentation as a Talk MS speaker. Think of a pivotal moment in your experience with MS, be it your diagnosis or the diagnosis of someone close to you, be it an experience with the symptom, or maybe it's even a funny story. Use those basic elements to craft your story and work on telling it. Try it out with a family member or a friend, or share it with your chapter contact, and then weave it into your presentation. It's a very effective way of including your story and giving the face to MS while making it not the primary aspect of your presentation.